tinoti makadi mhuri yeZimbabwe kusangana kwatiri kuita zvakare ipo pano paZemu News Update apo patauya kuno kupakurirai nyaya iri kutaurwa naRutendo Matinyarare kuti sei Vice President Constantino Chiwenga navakembo muhadhi wasina kuatenda musangano wePolitiburo wakaitwa naPresident Emerson Mnangagwa unova uri musangano vavo vakakosha vekuti musangano iwovo ndo wainge uri kurongwa nhauwa dzeConstitutional Amendment Bill number 3 sezvo zvetiri kuona kuti tatarisana nemazuva mashomanana kuti ringe richisainwa naPresident Emerson Mnangagwa. So tira kuti muda kusiya muchinzwa Rutendo Matinyarare tongoti kana uri mutsotsa panosina kusubscribe kulike nekushare
tete baba mkuru nana baba were to come to a house in Zimbabwe in the middle of the night, and relatives from Zimba, relatives from Binga catch buses to arrive to a house in Zimbabwe in the middle of the night. Surely we will all know that it is a sign that there is a crisis in the home. There is not a celebration when relatives come in the middle of the night, have to take emergency buses all the way from Binga to come through to our home. Worse still, if the chief of the village and the sangom of the village make their way to that very same house at 2 o'clock in the morning, there's nothing normal about that. It's abnormal. And this is what I was thinking, that the Zimbabwean people will recognize that the coming of Cyril Ramaphosa on a Sunday of a long weekend, a long Workers' Day weekend, and him coming without planning, without scheduling. And you know, for heads of states to travel, they need what you call the forward team to go into the country where they're going. Their security needs to go and check. They need to check the venues where they're going. They need to check the venue doesn't have a bomb, doesn't have a sniper, doesn't have assassins. And so then they can clear their president to travel. But here, Ramaphosa got into the presidential private jet, went to Zimbabwe without warning, without a forward team checking whether where he's going is safe, landed and went to a private property. You might say our president is his counterpart, but they're not counterparts to that extent. That he can go to his farm without checking.
They don't know each other like that.
So there was a lot of risk in the office of the South African presidency, having their president travel unprepared, unscheduled, unplanned, and without doing the necessary security protocols. It had to have been a crisis for him to put his life in danger to that extent. And imagine if something had happened to Ramaphosa, it would be a crisis for South Africa. But they felt that the crisis of Ramaphosa getting injured or something happening to him in Zimbabwe was a better threat than the imminent threat that he went to deal with. And what would be the threat that would be more imminent and more scary than Ramaphosa running into problems in Zimbabwe? And did you see another thing? He gets to Zimbabwe, he parks his jet, I think it's Charles Prince or one of those airports, and then he gets into a chopper of the government of Zimbabwe in this volatile environment where helicopters have fallen in Zimbabwe, and he decides to still get on that helicopter. Imagine the amount of trust, but the risk that was taken. Why? As Zimbabweans, as Africans with rituals and protocols, we understand that Munu Mukuru of the magnitude of Ramaphosa, the most important leader on the African continent, is the only leader who sits in G20, would not risk his life to come to a country that is violating human rights, that has been indicted by its own Zimbabwean Human Rights Council report that they have been beating people, they've been arresting people, and they've not been following their constitution. He would not risk to be associated with that country unless there was an existential threat for that country, his country, and the region. Anyone who argues against that is not thinking. Anyone who argues against that is like a person who is told that yesterday, last night, the Sangom of the village, the Sabuku of the village, the chief of the village, and all our relatives came to the house in the middle of the night, and he says, it was just to come and say good night.
So, you know,
lastly, before you go, I want to put the last one. Then Jonathan Moyo, the most prominent politician in Zimbabwe, the
Right.
preeminent political mind of Zimbabwe, the father of Cab 3, who has just impregnated his wife, who he was expecting to deliver Cab 3, all of a sudden goes silent for 5 days. Ramaphosa comes to Zimbabwe, and the Varakashi say he came to congratulate Varakashi on Cab 3, but the father of Cab 3 has remained quiet and not posted for 5 days and not commented about Ramaphosa coming. That is abnormal. Thank you, my brother. You can go.
Right. So, okay. I want to link this now. This visit to the Zimbabwe internal politics. In your view, which internal tensions in Zimbabwe do you believe raised this risk of instability?
Right. So first of all, let me put it to you like this. A lot of people have been wondering, where is this information coming from? I think I have said on this platform that we were tasked to speak to the counterparts of Zimbabwe in the ANC and the government of South Africa to help us in the fight against sanctions.
Yes.
And we have explained that we also converted them to stand with Zimbabwe when Mumba's report came out, on the pretext that they believe that elections in a Zimbabwe that's under sanctions were creating conditions of unfair elections that are in favor of the opposition. So we've got friends in the system.
Right.
It is those friends in the system that told us, first of all, before the visit, that an emergency call had come to President Ramaphosa, warning him that things were about to explode in Zimbabwe. And there was a request for him to go and intervene. That phone call came on the Saturday night.
Is it the one that came from Chapo?
Yes.
All right.
And they had to communicate with Harare that very same night and say, we're coming tomorrow. Not asking for permission. And it is not that he was invited to Zimbabwe. It's a lie. He was not invited to Zimbabwe. He told the Zimbabweans, we are coming.
Right.
We're coming there. Right? But remember, it was a holiday. A long holiday. So dignitaries, some of the government officials in South Africa had gone on holiday. That's number one. Number two, not all of them could be told what was going down. This was a secret mission.
Even the DA was not even aware.
They could not be told because they don't like ZANU-PF. Varungu havanguudzwa, because we are trying to solve this problem as African solutions for African problems quietly under the carpet, so that we do not make it look like there's instability and that Africans cannot govern themselves. So it comes to Harare. Harare is supposed to also understand the protocol of secrecy here. But unfortunately, a lot of our ministers are not available. A lot of our ministers are not even informed. And instead, they inform the internal cabinet, this alternative cabinet that I talked about here on this group last time, that there is a parallel cabinet that meets every day at 7 o'clock at the president's private office every single day, planning affairs of Zimbabwe, yet they're unelected. That cabinet was the one that was told. And don't you find it funny that that cabinet was available? They did not go to Switzerland. They did not go to Dubai. They were in Zimbabwe on this particular weekend. And instead of them following what would have been logical diplomatic protocol in this circumstance, maintain the privacy that South Africa maintained, maintain the silence, and have a private, because part and part of why it was done at the farm is it was hoping that it would be a private affair.
It would be a private, yes. Not knowing that, we had a Zimbabwe, a next top model, and I'm talking about picture my president.
This is why I said now what happened here is that our president then got into a situation where he wanted to have his cake and he wanted to eat it too. Or he wanted to kill two birds with one stone. Without realizing that killing those two birds with one stone would cancel the whole purpose of the visit. So, where we are supposed to have a secret meeting in private, away from prying eyes, away from government facilities, they decided to have cameras. The parallel cabinet decided to invite cameras because
Nana
they thought it
movie.
was going to be the biggest PR victory of Cab Life. They decided to use the president of the most powerful country in Africa without his authority. They decided to make him a condom. They decided to use him the way they've used people like Rutendo and many others to do things
Right.
for their own benefit without thinking of the person that they're using and how they feel. So they used Ramaphosa. But they forgot, because of the lack of diplomatic protocol, because of the lack of experts in international relations, because of the lack of experts in geopolitics, they forgot that South Africa is a geopolitical pivot whose president has to answer to his own people for mixing with people that do not share the values of democracy and human rights. And also he has to answer to the G20 and international powers as to what he would be doing with these kind of people and a parallel cabinet.
Yeah.
And why would he be going there on a South African government presidential plane and on South African government business? What did he be doing there? They didn't think about those questions coming up. So now those pictures went out. The South Africans were flabbergasted. The DA, which is in partnership with the ANC, is thinking, President Ramaphosa, we're in government together. How did you take a government trip without consulting us to tell us what you're going to do in Zimbabwe? And why would you go there as the president of South Africa at a time that these people are beating the opposition, they're arresting the opposition, there's Muzembe in jail? Why would you go to that country and rub shoulders with those people, particularly these parallel government individuals and the Gupta-like characters here? They put Ramaphosa in a very tight fix because they wanted to get their PR victory, but they forgot that that PR victory was coming at the expense of their biggest ally in Africa and the most important country in Africa. And so they triggered unforeseen consequences. That is why you see DA is putting pressure on Ramaphosa. The South Africans are putting pressure on Ramaphosa. They want him to justify why the resources of South Africa were used to go to Zimbabwe on a Sunday, on a holiday. What was so important? This is why you see now statements are coming from the president's office confirming that it was a working meeting. And there are also coming statements that are saying we did not know who was going to be there. But still, Ramaphosa cannot come out in the open that I went to negotiate because our neighbors are in another crisis because the wife and the husband are burning their house down again.
Yeah. So now soon after Monday, Chapo is going to to meet Ramaphosa.
Mm-hmm.
Was that an opportunity for a feedback to say good hand I have sorted things out?
100%. 100%. And remember, the moment that those photos came out on social media, some of our contacts in South Africa
Exactly, never Antika, are you with me on this one? You are not going to come and tell us about Executive here. Yeah, Executive what you I know Diwanani. Who told you that we want Executive? Isuzu told my elections in 2028 are free and fair. Where the tikavotera dongi, nderedu dongera chiro, but rinoti terera. Richita mandate revan. You understand me? We are tired of being slaves and natives in other countries. They'll say to you, Daddy, is this where you grew up? When we are managing and running economies of other countries, we are failing to run our own. So what we want to say is that the plan is here, ladies and gentlemen. We have to start from what is within our reach. And what is in our reach is within our local governments. Any local government person who has put his finger up and said they are for Cap 3 must be bloody recalled tomorrow. Gabude. Do vato tanga nawe wao. Do vato garisana now. isusu vana meya vanogara kusere kwedu, but road yacho you must see. You were talking about a fetish of cars. You are going to buy a Prada, but my road apera. We don't even have a tar road Mgwero. Mrombezi is 100% better than calling Gwero City. Then you're telling us of brick by brick, what, and leaving no place behind. Gwero has been left behind long ago. We have gone back to the dinosaur age. You are going to get a state minister like Muda, Anomira Achivura Mgodi, Mutaundu City, where there was tap water, and you are opening a bloody borehole for us.
No, over the 46 years, how many groups? You're only seeing the ones that have a strategy at that era. But when you are the next one incumbent, you are dealing with all of those to try and feign them off. Nangakwa is not dealing with one group here, general, that is trying to get them off. The other groups are also waiting for general's plan to fail and copying his to make theirs better. So if you read on God's one, I hope you read the analysis of what happens, choices that people make, citizens place whenever we do these transitions of power. Military is never the option. They were even better, the other ones that put in their stupid little group of politicians, for a while, semblance of democracy, and then the citizens pick up and whatever, slow pace economic growth, but they reduce the repression, oppression, some other things. But it's because nobody wants to give Zimbabwean the chance to do. We're always being sold. This one will do it. But I'll end. The son of Kent, you will be the bravest man to come here and stop this narrative of trying to paint over the general. He's one of the biggest oligarchs in Zimbabwe. Some of the partnerships that he has been making around the world are some of the most dangerous ones as well. You're not talking about that, where he's been visiting over the last 7 years.
When I say there's a Gupta, remember my words today. There is a Gupta in the making. There is a Gupta in the background that is funding the discord in Zimbabwe. And Rutendo has been talking about connecting the dots. I want you as Zimbabweans to connect the dots when I say a Gupta. And in those we don't want, we want Zimbabwe for Zimbabweans. Finish and clear. Thank you.
Oh, last one ngicela ukukhuluma kokugcina manje ne ngiyezwa lithi i-option ka-general no, and mina umbuzo wami uthona i-situation esikuyo manje idinga ukuthi sidile ne-cap 3, and then okuzolandela sizokubona, sizodila nayo general if kuyukuthi nguye rightfully okumele angene, as i-constitution yabo yezani sisho njalo ukuthi i-vice president kumele abe nguye osuccessor upresident, and then we deal no-general ngaleso sikhathi sesifiki.
Sorry, son of Kent, I've got just 10 seconds a question, then I can go to listeners. My question is, the submission from my brother Rutendo, was good and, as usual. And we appreciate you, my brother Rutendo. Keep up the good job you are doing, and we always support you. But the question to you, son of man, is this one. Who are the Guptas? Are the Guptas you are talking about the same as the one who were with Jacob Zuma in South Africa? Or it just is just like what they call a lingua franca, saying like, or maybe something else. Can you clarify, please? Who are the Guptas?
Rutendo has been talking about my jets and what and people owning jets. Who are the people when you look around in your society as Zimbabweans that own jets and fly in and out of Zimbabwe? Are you guys blind? Or are we blind today as Zimbabweans? We claim to be literate. So we are very literate, but we are very blind. That even Stevie Wonder and Steve Kekana that do not have eyes can see that there's a Gupta behind everything here. Funding even some media. Funding PR companies. Guys, let us wake up.
No, but
let us wake up.
But son of man,
let us wake up.
Son of man, there's nothing wrong to say this one. Like for example, I can tell you about these these big donors, like, those who change governments, like, those, George Soros and stuff like that. I know I can say that. There's nothing wrong about it because it will be a matter of fact. But if we are not just saying who are these people, then that means you are putting us in limbo. Then it will go on and on and on, so that we don't understand who are these people. It's better to just say these and this and these, so that we can now look at them and see what they what's their interests are.
It will never go on and on and on because they know that they are known. You understand? It will never. The fact that Son of Kenzie can know about it, that means there are more people that know about it. And when I am stating with fact that there is a Gupta behind a certain narrative, hear me out. There is a Gupta that owns half of Zimbabwe there. You understand? So we need to be very cautious of who our mineral rights are being handled by and who is controlling them and what are the benefits and who are they aligned to. You understand? We talked of Makorokozas being aligned to this or that or that. Isusu in Gweru, we've seen what is happening. We are living in a disastrous city and we are being told brick by brick the country is being built, no place